Hello, today we're going to talk about how to enter your Streambank restoration practices using the new FieldDoc. We're going to call these different practices out specifically because they require a bit more input than other practices do in the system. So to get started, let's go over to our FieldDoc platform. And I'm going to go into an existing project at an existing site and set up a new practice. So this is the project workspace landing page. I'm going to scroll down to a site that's already been created and scroll down once again to practices, and you'll see there already is a practice here, and I'm going to add a new practice by pressing this plus sign. Once this loads, you can add in your practice name, the name that you want to call it. You can add a description if you'd like, and then you're going to search for practice type. One of the reasons, I'll stop here and just talk for a moment about the logic behind how these work. One of the reasons that we updated FieldDoc in general was that the Bay program updated their watershed model. So we had to reflect those updates for the loading sources and their new associated new loading rates, new BMPs that were added, and new efficiencies or reduction calculations. So one of the handful of processes that do not have an efficiency or have a new load reduction, and that is stream restoration. So using FieldDoc, we developed a calculator to estimate the pounds reduced for both nutrients and sediments estimated to be reduced from your project here. So in the practice type, there are many ways to get to the stream reduction module to start running your calculations. The first thing you can do is search by protocol, and you'll see them pop up here. You can also just start typing in stream restoration, or you can search for it by full name. If you type in bank stabilization as well, that would pop up, as you'll see here. And we're going to do bank stabilization first, so I'm going to click on this, and you can see that the instructions begin to appear after you choose your practice type. And you can click for more information by clicking on this URL, and it'll bring you over to more detailed information that you might want to refer to. You can again choose privacy on or off, and then click save. The next step, as with any practice, will be including the location of where that practice will take place. So we're going to draw a polygon on the map and click finish, and then save it. The system will bring you to where the parcel was, as you saw, and then you will be drawing that picture. And then next, let's go and fill out the metrics. Since stream restoration is not an efficiency and has no effect on loads, we can't calculate it automatically. If you choose this practice, you're going to have to provide some inputs. So to do this, you're going to click on the URL that says click here to add or modify model inputs. And just to make sure you see that, it's what I've highlighted. So we're going to click on that, and it will bring you to another page that has a long list of fields to input. This should look very familiar if you have used the bank stabilization protocol in the previous version of FieldDoc, with the caveat that based on the input from the expert panel, we have removed the eroding horizontal width input to more accurately reflect the calculations that the group envisioned. So right now, you enter these inputs to reflect your site. A couple of things to say about this. The expert panel report says that you can have a bank stabilization project where your eroding bank height, lateral erosion rate, etc. You know all these parameters change throughout the month. So if you have a 2,000-foot linear stream bank stabilization project chances are a lot of these parameters aren't going to be the same throughout the whole reach. Just like recommended in the previous version, chunk these off in ways that make sense so that you might have multiple bank stabilization modules for the same site. That's totally okay. Also, remember that these inputs are for your current unrestored condition as per the expert panel. So I'm just going to throw in really vague numbers here. These are not accurate in any sense of the word, but we are going to just roll with it and save at the end. And all this information will be saved in the system. And when you go back to that icon for the metrics, the landing page, the metrics and targets, you'll see that FieldDoc has calculated the estimated reductions for this stabilization. You'll also be able to add in any of your other metrics that are associated with this practice at this site if necessary. So here are these calculations, and that's how it works. What we really heard from our users has been that it's really important to make these calculations and load reductions as easy to run as possible for you. So in this case, we're trying to make it a lot more clear in terms of how these load reductions are being calculated and where those numbers and assumptions are coming from. So in this case, we have BMPs with algorithms behind them, and you'll see all of these sections in your summaries that explain and provide more information on the practices that they encompass, as well as some documentation and reference in terms of where these assumptions are. And again, all of that was available for you to view, and I highly recommend bookmarking these pages so that you can easily access them if necessary. It's really important to us that we keep all these calculations as transparent as possible for all of the users. So for those of you who really want to understand these calculations, we, again, just want you to have access to that when you need it. So let's go back and do another practice. I'm still in the Streambank practice that I just created. You can see this is the landing page. You can see the location. You can see those target metrics. And then as you complete your progress on your report, you would add those reports here. But let's go back to the project level and scroll back down. Let's go to the Giddy Farm site and add another practice, which is the one we were just in. So we're going to press the plus sign to add our next practice. And let's do Stream Restoration Protocol 2. This is the in-stream and riparian processing hyperarchaic zone, which you can type out and it'll appear as a choice on the drop-down list. If you're familiar with tutorials that I've done before, I'm really bad at typing and talking, so let's try to do this quickly so you can see what's going on. And again, we can find this by typing in protocol 2. We could type in hypoarchaic zone, and then press save. You should start to see a pattern again, like you've seen with the other practices, where next we're going to put in the Geo-Referenced Polygon, and this is important for being able to calculate those reductions. And the system will bring you to the area where the site is that you identified for this practice, and then you'll be able to draw that separate polygon. And once you've identified the area, click Save, and that provides really important information for tracking not only project location, but for being able to process those estimated load reductions. Let's scroll down now to the metrics. And this one only has total nitrogen reduced. And this one has pretty much the same inputs as the protocol 1 has, with one exception. For protocol 2, the user now has to provide the maximum depth of the hyperreic zone. The expert panel lets you go up to 5 feet. In the old version, we used a default of 5. And so in this version, we want the user to give that input to us. So let's also note here that you can choose a less than 90% design or greater than 90% design. So if you are below that design threshold, we are asking you to use the default of the protocols that were outlined in the report. But we're going to move forward with 90% for this example. And all of your fields to fill out are going to appear here. These inputs, unlike bank stabilization, are based on restored conditions. So we're going to make up some numbers. Let's see. I don't know why I'm overthinking this. I don't really know what they should be. Again, these are completely made up, and we're just going to kind of roll with it. And picking some of my favorite numbers there. We'll do and click a plus, a save sign once you have all those in. And when we go back to that landing page for the metric targets, you will see an estimate of total pounds of nitrogen reduced. And this is the estimated reduction on your summary page. One item that is worth mentioning, again, across our entire project, our system is keeping track of all your progress cumulatively. For those of you who are FieldDoc veterans, essentially, one of the biggest updates that you'll notice on the performance side is that you used to have to burn through all of your sites and practices to run your summary. Now we're doing it instantaneously. These are, just little things that we're trying to do to make your experience here a little more seamless and simple. So you'll see that the information is rolling up to the entire project site. So let's do our third practice of the bank stabilizations. We're going to go into the site where the practice is taking place, create a new practice, and this time we will do protocol 3. This is the protocol that you're going to notice the biggest change from the previous version. To put it lightly, this was the problem child for funders. MDNR facilitated the completion of a lot of work thanks to user interviews and between the program managers and DNR. They worked with 50 to 75 individuals that were trying to work with this protocol 3. So needless to say, a lot of time and brain power over the past 6 months to a year went into working with the authors of the expert panel and other members to make some hard changes. So basically, it's no longer a calculation model. We're requiring the users to provide us with the design details. Your pounds are now an input that you need to provide to us. So just like the other protocols, we're going to go through that same practice to begin with. And we're going to click on protocol 3, press save. Quickly, we'll add our geolocation for this project and put those in here and finish it. I hope that you all appreciate this ability to add in your geolocated polygons directly into the system. I know I do. It's a lot easier than having to build it in an Esri product. But if you do have an existing file that shows your geolocated practice area, you are very welcome to upload that directly into the system as well. So let's save that. And drum roll, let's see what's different about this, this protocol 3. So just like with the other protocols, you're going to click here to add or modify your inputs. And again, you can choose less than 90% or greater. For the sake of this tutorial, let's go with 90%. And we're going to pretend that I have all the information that you need to do this. This is the information that carried over from the old version, with the exception that there is no longer the floodplain treatment or the floodplain access input, which apparently are tongue twister words for me. So for here, what you're going to do is input based on the restored condition, and all of these inputs will be post-restoration. The next input for you to provide us with is the text of the method you've used to calculate your protocol 3 reduction. And so let's put in some numbers here for, 20, we'll see. And we will do National Airport. So the expert panel has a couple different suggested methods that you can use. Whatever method you use, excuse me, type it in, and you're going to need to provide us with those calculations down below here by uploading a file. So let's put in some fun calculation, some fun reductions. And we'll choose that file. It has to be a PDF, a CSV, or a Word doc. So I'm just going to put a really irrelevant project in there and click save. And you can change that if you need to, or upload something different. And when you go back to your metrics, the values that you inputted will be the ones that carry over to be added to your project site. To add in some additional information in respect to practice implementation and steps forward, in general, we have worked to include a variety of other best management practices that are part of the Phase 6 Chesapeake Bay model. We've worked really hard throughout this version to make sure that the burden of entry on the user is as light as possible. And so we felt it was really important to show you how to input these bank stabilization practices, but the rest of them are really straightforward, and the system will calculate the reductions for you automatically. If you run into any trouble while you are inputting your projects and your practices, please feel free to reach out to either your funding administrator or the FieldDoc team, and we will do our best to answer your questions in a timely manner. With that, I wanted to quickly pop over to our help documentation, which you can access from anywhere in the system, called Need Help. And here you'll find a lot of answers, and you'll be able to talk to a FieldDoc team member by working through our chat box. Have a great day. Thank you so much for all the work you do on the ground to improve water quality, and we're happy to help you track that however we can. Thanks.